35-year-old Claudia Lawrence disappeared from her home city of York. No one has seen or heard from her since.
I'm still convinced that people are lying to us. I'm still convinced that people close to Claudia have told us lies, and I'm determined to make sure that we give them the opportunity to come forward with the right information.
The case of Claudia Lawrence is one that haunted the Yorkshire community for more than a decade, and once you hear it, you'll understand why. So let's go back to Wednesday, March 18th, 2009, Heworth, York. Claudia Lawrence finished her shift at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, same as always. She worked early mornings at Goodnight College's Roger Kirk Center at the University of York. Her shift started at 6 in the morning and ended at 2 in the afternoon, and that was exactly the way she liked it. Long afternoons, evenings that were completely her own. Time to go for a walk, grab a drink, see her friends. Life on her own terms. That week, her car was at a garage getting fixed, so she had been walking the 3 miles to work and back every single day. But on the afternoon of March 18th, a friend happened to spot her on Melrose Gate and offered her a lift home. She said yes. She was dropped off right at her front door on Heworth Road at around 20 minutes to 3. CCTV cameras had already caught her leaving the college earlier on foot and then again later, making her way home through the streets. Just a normal afternoon, nothing unusual at all. Then around 8 o'clock that evening, she sent a text to a friend. About half an hour after that, just gone 8:30, her phone rang and she picked it up. It was her mum, Joan. They had a good chat. Joan would later tell the police that Claudia sounded cheerful and relaxed. They made plans together for Mother's Day. Claudia also had a conversation with her dad, Peter, that same evening. She told him she was going to have an early night. Her car still wasn't ready. She'd have to walk to work again in the morning. She sounded completely fine, happy even. The very last text Claudia Lawrence ever received came in at 9:12 that night. It was from a male friend of hers who worked at a bar over in Cyprus. And then, silence. By 5 o'clock the next morning, March 19th, she should have been heading out the door for work. Her shift started at 6. She knew that route really well by then. 3 miles through streets she had walked nearly every day for 2 years, past the pub where everybody knew her, through the quiet parts of Heworth, all the way to the university campus. She never arrived. Her manager tried calling her mobile at noon on March 19th. The phone rang, it went to voicemail, and then the manager just left it at that. No further action was taken. At around 12:10 in the afternoon, someone deliberately switched off Claudia Lawrence's Samsung D900 mobile phone. It has never been switched on again since that moment. That same evening, Claudia was supposed to meet her friend Susie Cooper at the Nag's Head, a pub that was literally less than a minute's walk from her front door. Susie showed up and waited. Claudia never came. Susie tried calling her, no answer. She tried again on Friday morning, still nothing. She was really worried by this point, so she got in touch with George Foreman, the landlord of the Nag's Head, who was a friend to both of them. Through George, she managed to get a hold of Claudia's dad, Peter. On Friday, March 20th, 2009, Peter Lawrence went round to his daughter's cottage. He had his own key, and George Foreman came with him. When they walked in, the house looked completely normal. Tidy. The bed was made. There were some unwashed dishes in the kitchen sink. It looked like she had eaten breakfast before she left that morning. Her slippers were sitting neatly by the door. Her jewelry was laid out on the chest of drawers. Her handbag was right fair on the side, and inside it, her purse, her bank cards, her passport. Everything still there. What was missing was this, her Samsung mobile phone. Her blue and gray Karimor rucksack, the one she always used to carry her chef's whites to work, and her hair straighteners. The things you only take with you on a morning when you're planning to come back home. At 2 o'clock that same afternoon, Peter Lawrence picked up the phone and called North Yorkshire Police to report her daughter missing. And just like that, the investigation had begun. Before anyone was looking for Claudia, before her name appeared on missing persons reports, she was just someone you would have liked instantly. She grew up in Malton, a quiet market town in Yorkshire that doesn't pretend to be anything fancy. Claudia was the youngest of 2 sisters in a family that felt close and comfortable. Her dad, Peter, worked as a solicitor, well-respected and doing pretty well. Her mom, Joan, served on Malton Town Council and eventually became mayor. Allie, her older sister, was only 3 years ahead of her. The Lawrences lived in a big house with paddocks and their own horses. Saturdays meant Claudia and Allie riding together, usually heading to lessons in Rillington, a little village nearby. For school, Claudia went to York College for Girls, the private school in the city. She played the flute, and her dad always described her as brave, adventurous, someone with lots of friends. After school, she headed to a local catering college, learned to be a chef, and found she was great at it. Steady, thorough, somebody you could always count on at work. She worked the restaurant and hotel circuit in York, growing more confident every year. But honestly, all those late nights, weekend shifts, and constant demands started getting old. The hospitality grind doesn't care about your plans. So in 2006, Claudia switched to a chef job at Goodnight College at the University of York, Monday through Friday, 6 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. The rest of the day was hers. A year later, with help from her parents and a small inheritance, Claudia bought a terraced cottage on Heworth Road. It was close to the Nag's Head, which quickly became her spot. She was 33, settling into her own routine, slowly building up a life that made sense for her. And at the Nag's Head, Claudia fit in. She was there most nights, chatting with regulars, always quick to smile. Jen King, her friend, said Claudia was easygoing, didn't need much to be happy. Maybe she'd buy herself a new top, drop by the pub, see her horse, listen to music. That was enough. She wanted sun, a relaxing holiday, a tan, nothing bigger. There was a special thing she did at the pub, head to the jukebox and play Elton John's Your Song. That was Claudia. At work, she never missed a shift, never let anyone down. People who knew her said the same thing. She was reliable, always showed up. The thought of her skipping work and not letting anyone know, not calling her parents, just disappearing, that, as Peter and Joan Lawrence said, was completely and utterly out of character. Now, it's worth saying something here. After Claudia disappeared, the media coverage spent a lot of time talking about the so-called complexity of her personal life, the idea that some of her relationships had a hidden or secretive side, and the social world she moved in around the Nag's Head. Detective Superintendent Ray Galloway even brought it up publicly on Crime Watch in June 2009, talking about complexity and mystery in her relationships. Some of that was probably necessary for the investigation, but a lot of it was not. And what the coverage almost completely ignored was the bigger picture, a woman who had, by the age of 35, quietly put together a life that genuinely worked for her. The early morning shift, the long afternoons, the cottage she owned, the calls she made to her parents almost every single day, the Mother's Day plans she had just made with her mom, days before she vanished. She was right at the center of her own life, and that is the version of her that deserves to be remembered. North Yorkshire police had never seen anything like it. Claudia Lawrence's disappearance set off their largest missing person investigation ever. Right at the start, detectives settled on 3 main theories. One, maybe Claudia just decided to go. Perhaps she'd fallen for someone new or wanted a fresh start. She'd been to Cyprus 5 times, and the last text she ever got came from a guy she knew out there. That September, Detective Superintendent Ray Galloway and his team actually flew to Cyprus to talk to Claudia's acquaintances. Galloway later told reporters that people there didn't want to talk. They got nowhere. The second theory was that something happened on her walk to work, a medical emergency, maybe an accident. Officers retraced her route carefully, searching every inch. Nothing turned up. And then there was the third possibility, the one nobody wanted, but it grew heavier as days went on. Maybe someone she knew hurt her. After 5 weeks, the police dropped the label missing person. Now it was officially a murder investigation. The BBC's Crime Watch picked up the story that June. Ray Galloway appeared on the show alongside Kirsty Young, telling the whole country that after 11 weeks, they still had nothing solid. John Sentamu, then the Archbishop of York, made a public appeal for tips. Crime Stoppers offered £10,000, and the police got over 1,200 calls. That month, Peter Lawrence, Claudia's dad, recorded a simple video for YouTube and pleaded with anyone who knew anything to speak up. A year rolled by. In March 2010, police searched the Heslington area, fields near the university, a kids' play area on the edge of York, after some new information. They found nothing. And then, time just slipped away. 12 years passed. 14. The case file only grew thicker. Claudia's family never gave up, but sooner or later the investigation almost disappeared into silence. When it came to real evidence, there was some, just not enough to fit together. March 18, 2009, Claudia finished her shift at Goodrich College around 2 p.m. CCTV caught her leaving on foot. By about 2:50, a friend dropped her off outside her cottage on Heward Road. 3:05 p.m., a neighbor saw her at Heward Road and East Parade. That's the last time anybody ever saw Claudia Lawrence, on camera or in person. That night, at 7:15 p.m., CCTV picked up an unknown man on Lime Court, just around the corner from Claudia's house. Average height, dark clothes, a rucksack. He left, then reappeared but froze when he noticed another guy. Then he was never seen again on camera. Police have never figured out who he was or why he was there. Around 8:30 p.m., Claudia chatted with her mom, Joan. Cheerful and relaxed, Joan remembered. At 9:12 p.m., the final text came in. Finally, at 12:10 p.m. that Thursday, a good while after Claudia should have started work, her phone was switched off. Not because it died or lost signal. Somebody turned it off for good. There's one more bit. CCTV captured a silver Ford Focus braking right outside Claudia's cottage. Police asked the driver to come forward, but no one ever did. Claudia disappeared sometime between 3:05 p.m. on March 18th and the early hours of March 19th. The window is clear, but what happened inside it, nobody knows, even after all these years. In June 2013, North Yorkshire Police set up something new, a major crime unit. They spent £300,000 to get it off the ground, basing the whole operation in Harrogate. The unit's focus? Big cases, kidnappings, serious sexual offenses, and those stubborn investigations that had hit a dead end. By October 2013, the MCU was officially up and running. One of the very first cases handed to them was Claudia Lawrence's. This new team wasn't stuck with the same old tools from 2009. They rolled in with updated forensic technology, stuff that didn't even exist back when Claudia first disappeared. Right away, they headed back to her cottage on Haworth Road, bringing fresh eyes and much better equipment. The search turned up things the first investigation never caught. They found extra fingerprints, unidentified. They found a man's DNA on a cigarette lying inside Claudia's car. And then they dug into her Samsung D900 mobile phone records. Using cell site analysis, they uncovered something the original team couldn't crack. Claudia had been spending time in the Acombe area of York, a suburb out on the city's western side. That's quite a trek from her home in Haworth and even further from her workplace at the university in Heslington. Police never said what Claudia was doing out there or why it mattered. The phone records settled another question, too. On March 19, 2009, the day Claudia vanished, her mobile wasn't switched off by accident. It wasn't a dead battery. Someone turned it off on purpose. Then, on the 6th anniversary in 2015, police went public with the Lime Court clip, the footage of an unknown man seen at 7:15 p.m. the night Claudia went missing. Days after that clip got shared, on March 23, 2015, police made the first arrest. They picked up a man in his 50s from York on suspicion of murdering Claudia. Then in April, officers arrested 3 more men, also in their 50s, and all from the York area. Every one of them had been a regular at the Nag's Head pub. Every single one denied any involvement in Claudia's disappearance.
I'm convinced people have information that they are sat on or they've lied to us previously. So there have been 2 previous arrests, but, and we will continue to arrest people if we believe they're obstructing the inquiry.
By September 17, 2015, all were released from bail. The Crown Prosecution Service needed time to sift through the police evidence. Finally, on March 8, 2016, the decision came. No charges. The CBS said there wasn't enough evidence. Detective Superintendent Di Malin, who led the MCU review, was blunt about it.
I'm still convinced that people close to Claudia have told us lies, and I'm determined to make sure that we give them the opportunity to come forward with the right information. If they continue to lie and we prove they're lying, they'll be arrested.
People from Claudia's social circle at the Nag's Head who've stayed quiet, not just for a year or 2, but for 16. There's no body, no murder weapon. Still, forensic work did find a man's DNA in her car. Cell data puts her in a part of York she'd never even mentioned at home. That's not nothing. What it's not, apparently, is enough, because the folks who could fill in the rest refused to speak up. That silence isn't just empty space. It's hung over this case for 16 years, and it still sits with people alive today, people who keep their secrets every single day. Then in January 2017, North Yorkshire Police said the case was moving to a reactive phase. The 20 detectives who'd worked the MCU review stepped back. If anything new came in, it went straight to the cold case review team, covering Cleveland and North Yorkshire. The file isn't closed. It's just sitting, still waiting. Then, 12 years and 5 months after Claudia disappeared, something finally moved. Wayne Fox had taken over the case when he became senior investigating officer in October 2020. He was fully aware of how complicated it was, he said, but he was also clearly paying close attention to any new information that came in. In the time after a 2019 Channel 5 documentary about Claudia's disappearance, which was later picked up by Netflix and brought the case back into the national conversation in 2024, several separate pieces of new information reached the investigation. Fox looked at all of it alongside everything that had already been gathered over 12 years of inquiry. When he decided that the information pointed toward a specific location, he acted on it. On August 24, 2021, North Yorkshire Police arrived in force at Sand Hutton gravel pits. The operation was massive. Specialist search officers, forensic archaeologists, trained search dogs, police divers, underwater search teams. One of the lakes at the site was completely drained. The woodland around it was searched on foot, step by step. Fox told the journalists who had gathered at the scene that this was just one of several active lines of inquiry. He would not say what had specifically brought them to Sand Hutton. Quote, "Armed with fresh information to the inquiry that seemed to corroborate known facts," he told them, "we were duty-bound to conduct thorough searches of the area. Not searching was not an option, not for Claudia, not for her family, and not for the wider public." Unquote. The search went on for 2 full weeks. On September 5th, 2021, Vox confirmed it was over. A small number of items had been recovered from the site and were being looked at for any forensic potential, but nothing of obvious significance had been found. He was very careful about what he chose not to say. He confirmed members of the public had come forward with new information while the search was going on, and that this would all be looked at properly in the weeks ahead. He confirmed the investigation was still open and active. What he didn't confirm was what had pointed them toward that lake in the first place. Some of that information, or something close to it, may have started with what local people described as an environmental survey at the gravel pits, carried out just days before the police showed up. A 22-year-old local resident told journalists that workmen in high-vis jackets had been out on the water on a Friday before police sealed the whole site off. Whatever they were looking for, and whatever they may have found, none of it has ever been officially confirmed. And the lake just went still again. No arrest followed. Peter Lawrence didn't live to see that search happen. He died on February 11, 2021, 6 months before police finally showed up at Sand Hutton, inside a hospice in York. His illness wasn't long. He was 74. Afterward, his family put out a short statement. It said, quote, "It is sad that nearly 12 years after Claudia's disappearance from York, Peter never found out what happened to her. He was a very private person thrust into the full glare of the media, and despite a tireless campaign to find her, he also selflessly devoted himself to helping others with missing relatives through the charity Missing People." Unquote. It's just devastating, really. Peter fought for his daughter every day of his life, and still never got the closure he deserved. But Peter Lawrence didn't just sit in grief. In those years between losing his daughter and the end of his own life, he built something real. When Claudia vanished, her family was stuck. They couldn't manage her finances. The mortgage kept piling up. Bills kept landing in the mailbox at the cottage on Heworth Road. Back then, the law offered zero help for families with a missing person unless that person had been declared dead. Claudia's family just had to wait. Legally, they were trapped. Money drained away, no solutions. Peter said no to all that. He started lobbying MPs. He worked closely with Kevin Hollenrake, the Conservative MP for Thirsk and Malton. He got involved with the charity Missing People. He fought to get the Guardianship Missing Persons Act 2017 passed, a private member's bill that became law in July 2019. Now, because of the act, families can go to court just 90 days after someone disappears and take charge of bills, property, and any other mess left behind. They can stop direct debits, make decisions, avoid what the Lawrences went through just because someone they loved was gone. They named it Claudia's Law. In 2018, he was awarded an OBE. He called it absolutely marvelous. He got a law passed. He never got an answer. But here's the thing. Claudia's Law matters. It saved hundreds of families from the financial disaster the Lawrences faced. It's real. It lasts. And truthfully, it's probably the most tangible thing this case has given anyone in 16 years. A law, not a conviction. Peter found a way to channel his grief into something practical, something he could actually change. Justice for him and for Claudia stayed out of reach. The case remains open not because of missing evidence, but because people kept their mouths shut. And the Cold Case Review Unit, you have to believe, still thinks about that. Joan Lawrence hasn't stopped either. In 2024, she joined the Wondery podcast Answers for Claudia with journalist Tom McDermott, determined to keep her daughter's story in the public eye. And according to McDermott, it actually worked. People with direct knowledge of the case came forward to the police for the very first time. North Yorkshire Police said in July 2025 they're still taking in tips and they're following up on all of them. On March 18, 2025, the 16th anniversary, Detective Chief Inspector John Sygrove released a statement. "My thoughts remain with Claudia's mother and wider family. I cannot begin to understand the distress her mother has endured over the past 16 years, but I can reiterate our commitment to finding out what happened to Claudia." He added, nothing had changed on one point: the people who know or may suspect what happened to Claudia. All this time, the cottage on Heworth Road stood empty. The Nag's Head pub, people there still remember her. The jukebox is still in the corner. On the last evening anyone knows for sure, Claudia Elizabeth Lawrence told her mum she was going to bed early. She'd walk to work in the morning. She'd see her soon. Her mum remembers she sounded cheerful and relaxed. 16 years have gone by. Joan Lawrence is still waiting.
I'll never give up hope until I know what's happened. Never. Never.
If you have any information about the disappearance of Claudia Lawrence, North Yorkshire Police can be reached on 101. You can also make an anonymous report to Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 1111 and just quote Claudia Lawrence. No personal details are taken. Cases like this one are the reason this channel exists. If you want to support the work, subscribing is completely free and it genuinely helps more than most people realize. Thank you so much for being here.